What's going on, traders? I'm Antoine Farrell back with another trading video with Digital Goats Academy. Happy Cinco de Mayo and Taco Tuesday. Two birds in one stone, right? If you're tuning into this video, make sure you guys do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. And if you're tuning into this video, you obviously know we primarily discuss foreign exchange and the currency pairs we go over are indices, basically the money makers. Today is Tuesday. So you already know that's our market forecast, but let's go ahead and get straight into the trading session, all right? Man, has the market not been on a bullish tear? Have we not been rallying like we've been discussing? Everything we've been talking about is happening. It's been happening. We've played it out. I mean, even when we look at S&P, look how far we've come from where we already analyzed that price was going to be buying up and creating new highs. So if you're not convinced the market is bullish now, I don't know what you're thinking, but also you should be convinced that the market is bullish. We talked about all these areas. These same I don't like to say strategy. I hate the word strategy. Techniques, tactics, you know what I'm saying? Because the conditions are going to change where you're not going to use the same approach every day. Yeah, you still have a rhythm or a flow of how you analyze the market, but you're not going to really like the thing that worked yesterday is not the thing that's going to work tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, we do use that as a guide, and yes, for the most part, like, these things that appear happen more often than not. But that's why I say it's about like reading the market versus restricting yourself to a so-called strategy. You know what I'm saying? That's just me, but whatever, you know what I'm saying? The proof is in the pudding for our community. So we've been talking about this. We've been talking about that S&P, NASDAQ, US 30, we're going to be bullish. Last week we had the interest rate decision, which ended up bringing the market down slightly, but not enough to turn it around completely. Again, we should expect this as the market is trying to be bullish. We should expect this moment. Well, we should expect the market trying to force us down. One, in order to entice people to jump in on the sell, but also to make buyers go against their analysis. I mean, we've been saying this. We did this last year. We're doing it all over again. The only thing is like finding your entry, having an accurate entry based off of the things we've been discussing, right? So let's go ahead and look. We did do a weekly review, but I didn't get a chance to upload it, so I apologize, but we can kind of briefly discuss what happened last week anyway, since we do have a little bit more data. So where are we at? This is S&P, so this is last Sunday, right? So we normally go over the previous week for a weekly review. And as you see, like after it broke out of consolidation, out of this consolidation, S&P decided to create what? Another wave of consolidation. That's kind of crazy, but I have seen that happen before. Like I said, just having a general idea that price was gonna just test this area one time or two times and then bounce up from there. That's probably what caught a lot of traders because at that point, the more times that it revisit this area, you were more likely to have the approach of thinking, what? Oh, price is trying to sell off because it was creating resistance. As you can see, this is a lower high right here. I mean, this is a higher low right here until we had this move over here. And even then, it still pushed down. So there was a lot of selling activity going on. Well, the sell was just way more vicious and stuff, but it slowly bought up. And then we finally got our breakout, right? Last week. So Sunday, we consolidated. It didn't do, and I did look at this as a possible selling pattern, and it didn't really continue to sell because this is the start of a selling pattern. Have you seen this sequence over and at least right here? If you look at this bubble, you can find this a lot when the market is selling off for like a continuation. So normally this is a continuation of a sell, but we were already trading with the trend. We were already expecting the market to go up. I mean, even outside of this consolidation zone, this is like three Sundays ago. Even out of this zone, we were still above the previous days, right? You see what I'm saying? So still, you know what I'm saying? Like pay attention to like how the market is forming because it still told us that what? It was creating higher lows. You know what I'm saying? Higher than the previous low. I don't know why I said Yeah, I said that right. We had higher lows, and then as you can see, higher highs, right? Higher than the last low, breaking out of these areas, and then testing the areas that they broke out of. This was our first sign right here. So we didn't get this data until this week, you know what I'm saying, for the market to bring us down. But again, we kind of expect it. It breaks out of a previous level of resistance, wherever the resistance is at. We don't know how low the approach is going to be, right? But still, just think about it methodically. Like, I mean, well, in a more simplistic form, like price broke out of a previous level of resistance. If we mark that up as resistance, and resistance, we kind of make it as red because those were selling opportunities, but we weren't looking for that. And then at this point, did price turn its resistance into support after we broke out of that area? We did. You know what I'm saying? The only thing is price going to try to test down to any one of these highs, or are we still shooting for the moon from here? I'm on the shooting to the moon side, but again, we still have to break away from this area because price could do what? Try to come down here and either test the high out of this zone. So price could try to test the high out of this zone if the momentum is not carrying us up. You know what I'm saying? I didn't check to see what type of news we have today. I mean tomorrow. I do know this week is non-farm payroll, so I forgot to mention that. I did mention it to my community. We did know that because last week we didn't have non-farm payroll. We normally have it on the first Friday of every month, but because of whatever reason, they moved it to this. That's been happening a lot. I don't know the reasoning behind that, but even when you look on whatever news outlet you use for foreign exchange trading, it's saying the month because we're in April. So you see that it's saying for April instead of like showing it for May because it's basically doing the it's basically calculating the data from last month because we were supposed to do it on the first. You know what I'm saying? Not to confuse anybody. But anyway, so we could have price either come back to test this high if the momentum is not continuously carrying us up, or come back to the zone to do what? To create another level of support. So that's just the what if scenario. I'm not looking for that because the fact that we have the breakout, my approach is when we start having breakouts, we should go higher before we go lower. And the same thing if we were like in a seller's market or yeah, a seller's market, we should go lower before we go higher. And that's a vague statement because obviously we're looking for points for the market to turn around if it was selling, but also we're looking for the market to turn around when we're buying up as well. So these points, you know what I'm saying, as far as the market's creating a trend, I think this was like the last point of impact that we needed for the market to carry us up. And then any movement that we have now that will continue to trend will probably be like forms of consolidation. I could definitely see that. So what I'm expecting for S&P is I'm expecting for S&P to continue buying up. Our option is that if it decides to come down here, we'll take advantage of it, but this is what we're looking for. This is what I'm looking for. I don't know what you guys are looking for, but something like that. We're heading into I'm not saying exactly like that, but we're heading into Sydney and Tokyo session, so I expect price to probably consolidate, react like that, carry us up until what? Maybe Friday if we continue bullish is where it tries to um, you know, strip people of their gains and then maybe do something like that. I could definitely see that. The trap traders, if this is our last move in order to correct the market, which let me see. Let me see on a daily time frame. So we broke above the last 2 days, um, previous highs. So we broke above Sunday and Monday's candle. That's like a merge of Friday and Sunday. So I'm gonna just say Sunday's candle. This is Monday's candle. We clearly closed above it as far as like the structure. And even if you needed to make sure, turn it to a line chart, break it down to like a 4 hour, we can see this is structure. So we can see that we closed clearly above that. Um, We just got to see how the market is trying to pull back. I'm hoping we get a gap that pushes up, continuously pushes us up. But if we get a small gap up here, I'm gonna think that like a slight push up. If we get a small gap up here, what we're basically trying to do is see what percentage is the market going to pull back off of this candle. If we're going to just open and close at this area over here, or if price is going to try to pull back. Since we're heading into Wednesday, which, puts us at a more trending motion in the market. The market becomes more trendy during Wednesdays and Thursdays for the most part because they damn near made up their minds or at least had enough data to actually push the market with some momentum. We should either get like a pullback, probably like 23%. I don't even think we'll get like a 38%, just as how the momentum is moving. Let me see. And you see how we close for today? Well, where we close at? Right here. Yeah. So we closed up here. That momentum should definitely carry us on. Hopefully, because these last two candles aren't momentum candles because they have wicks at the bottom of it. So hopefully our next candle that opens up, however this opens up, is a momentum candle, which means that it has a flat bottom, which means it should continue our bullish rally. So like I said, the only thing I'm thinking of is that what we might do is have the market try to consolidate. And if it does break out of here, then it'll probably try to catch buyers, like slip in late buyers, push the market down and give us opportunity. And then that could probably be during non-farm payroll. But I'm still bullish. Like I'm not changing my regiment. We just gotta be open-minded to the possibility of the market pushing us down. But we know that, it's been the same recipe over and over. Opening bell pushes us down. If we're looking for buys, we take our opportunity to buy. Now, opening bell, I think Monday it pushed us down the full day. Normally, we expect it to turn around like 9:45, close to 10 a.m. as we saw today. Where are we at? Where's my zone at? Oh, I'm thinking of US 30. S&P didn't do that today. So let me see what S&P did today. Today is the 5th. S&P continued to trend. I'm actually thinking of US 30, so my bad. So S&P didn't do that. So we should expect that if we do get a breakout tomorrow, like between Sydney and all the way going up until like the middle of London, the market may probably try to bring price down during opening bell in order to cover like the highs of these areas. So we may not come this low, but we'll probably come somewhere out of like where we broke out of here. If, like I said, if the news doesn't continue carrying us up, that's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna play to the point of price bringing us down during opening bell. I know S&P and Nasdaq didn't do that today, but that is something we should still expect. This was the better move to be in. So if you weren't able to get in, you're kind of putting yourself at jeopardy until we get to the New York session tomorrow by entering this high. But I do think that we're going to consolidate from here and at least break out to the upside. So I'm bullish, like regardless, yo. Even if we get a push down, we've been seeing every move that's been bringing us down has been what? Pushing us right back up. So I'm still bullish for S&P, and the same thing can go for Nasdaq. That's my analysis for like S&P. I'm looking at buys. It just, as you know, it just depends on if we're consolidating to continue the trend or if we're going to do a pullback to continue the trend. I'm looking for the consolidation, but like I said, I'm being open to the possibility of a pullback, which if it doesn't happen tonight, it'll come towards like opening bell, possibly. So Nasdaq just been on its run. Like I said, we've been talking about this, that Nasdaq has just been the better option between the three. It's been clear, super clear. We talked about this. There should be no reason why, even if you're a trader on YouTube, like why, and you trade indices, why you couldn't have taken advantage of this information right here. Because we talked about price moving here. One, we can see that overall it's still playing off of that what? Inverted head and shoulder pattern. So we broke out of this resistance, which was our high for the year. This was the last high that the market made. And again, logically, what are we taught to think as traders? We're taught to think, oh, it creates a new high, should want to come back and pull back. Remember, there's different forms of correction. Stop only thinking the pullback is the only way the market can correct. I mean, can correct itself. I've always fallen prey to that when I was still like an amateur at this. But I'm telling you, there's different forms of corrective waves that the market will do. And it's not just, oh, we're waiting on a pullback like we see all these others, especially when it's trending. It's trending right now. So we shouldn't really expect the pullback like we see when price is ranging, as we saw over here. So we talked about price coming out of this consolidation pattern. Let's break it down a little bit more. Whereas last Sunday, I think we went extensively. I think I talked about this on weekly review. I think I might drop weekly review just because of the information I gave out based off of um the movement that Nasdaq was making. But this was last Sunday, right? So was it last Sunday? Yeah, this was last Sunday. So as you can see, we created resistance to bring the market down. Where did we end up testing? We end up testing the previous gap that was made on Thursday, April 23rd. Market got bullish from there. So we bought up again, creating support. Test of the previous high. This is what I'll be talking about. To continue what? To continue the trend going up. And as you can see, if you follow the black line, these data points, these are made up. This is a made up line. You know what I'm saying? It's just staying true to the trend, right? So we can confirm that price is, yes, trending up. Each time these points are getting higher, these low points are getting higher. You see, we created support finally over here. This was our breakout. We discussed this. We said that, yo, price based off of this pattern alone, this consolidation pattern alone, price is going to break out of here. We're going to get like a small pullback and price is going to break out of here. And then we got another pullback to confirm that we are buying up back at this resistance where price made. We drew this box out. So I was expecting that we might have not tested all the way back into the resistance, but we did. Either way, it's still showing us exactly what we wanted to see. Because again, we talked about this from what narrative? If this was a selling option, but this wasn't because we see this a lot of times. What? We see this a lot of times through what? Sells. A lot of times. I can even give y'all an example. That was inverted. So let me flip this back correctly because we were just on S&P. Look, consolidation downward. All we're doing is using the same pattern, but all we did was flip it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's now for NASDAQ, it's now in a buying motion. As you can see, broke out of that area. This was the push down. And then what did it do before actually dropping again? Testing back up into the pattern. Basically, the low of the pattern, it tested right back into there. Or you could say this, you can say, oh, it tested back into the imbalance candle, but this is like a previous low that it tested and it did it so fast that it didn't even register. But that brought the market down to finish off the pattern before we got bullish. Now, what we'll have probably is to continue Nasdaq going up. We'll probably have like a continuation, and then again, this will be the area that price tries to come back to tries to pull back to before continuing the trend up. You know what I'm saying? We now have an option. So when if you feel like you're late to Nasdaq, whenever Nasdaq comes back to this area, we know that it should do what? Either be at the high of this pattern or into the pattern somewhere that it doesn't violate it because anything low, like above, like, like a quarter into the pattern, that'll basically be a reversal. You know what I'm saying? And it'll be reversing basically this inverted head and shoulder. And I don't think that that's happening anytime soon. We've been on point. We just haven't been like extremely accurate. You know what I'm saying? But we've been in the ballpark area. I would say that we've been accurate, you know what I'm saying, to be honest. But so this is the move that should continue, just like we saw. This is the move that should continue to trend down, and then I mean should continue to trend up, and then we'll have like a move where price pulls back and then tries to test either maybe this area again or back into this resistance. So don't get caught with your pants down. But as far as I'm seeing right now, this is a buy opportunity. What we'll probably have from NASDAQ as well, consolidation. I don't even know if we'll go that low. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of drawing it out. But I'm still bullish. You know what I'm saying? We do have highs that we've broken out of. So we'll see if price does decide to pull back just slightly, but it should want to consolidate and then buy back up. But if not, we know what our buying option is. Again, trying to be super accurate on indices, that really doesn't serve you. Um, just being close enough in your area, or if you use pending orders. I know one of my members in the group, they use pending orders and they're pretty on point when it comes to their pending orders. So if you're okay with that, use pending orders. But if you're into market execution, just be happy you were somewhere in the area. You know what I'm saying? Just use your proper risk management. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you don't over leverage. But anyway, last but not least, US 30. I know I was doing a lot of talking between S&P and NASDAQ, which I normally don't. I normally focus on US 30. So I do want to give US 30 its justice by, kind of giving somewhat of an extensive analysis on what I perceive what's going on and what we can take advantage of. So this week, we already know that US 30 out of the big three probably was the worst one to collapse this week. Since Sunday, we've been basically selling off out of this gap that it was made. It made a gap that bought up, and then the market just said, yo, I'm gonna keep selling off. But we have zones that are still marked up, you know what I'm saying, that we can utilize if price returns back to these areas. That's why I say, hey, traders, don't get rid of your markups, you know what I'm saying, as long as it's not a distraction. If it's a distraction, then yeah, you may need to clean up your charts a little bit. But for me, even I know what's going on in these charts, even though you as a viewer may be like, bro, I don't know what's going on your charts. It's not meant for you. You know what I'm saying? It's meant for me. But anyway, let me go ahead and break down what happened today. Well, the start of this week. So Sunday we dropped down, right? Sunday we dropped down. Well, from Sunday we sold off. We sold off back to an area we had identified, which is a support structure. What's more important to me, even if I didn't have this support structure, I knew I was going to have this trend line. This is imaginary trend line. Look how price bounced off this trend line. That's kind of crazy, right? Like wizardry. That's stuff that I'll be talking about. Like, yo, trading is kind of like sorcery a little bit. It's like it's crazy how, price plays to your analysis, and you're like, you can't even believe it yourself sometimes. But anyway, enough fanboying. This is our support that we had marked up, which could still be considered what? A previous high from the last area it broke out of. This is a wick that price broke out of. And as you can see, we tested to basically fill this area. Or like I said, if you turn it to a line chart, any one of these are highs. It just depends on what the market is trying to do. This is a high down here. This is a high down here. And I'm sure there's another high that we're not paying attention to if we broke it down like on a smaller time frame. But you're not gonna catch all the highs that the market is gonna break out of and be ready for it to come back to that area. Just make sure you notate or have a mental, note that price could possibly, there's a high over here, so price could possibly come back down to this area. Whichever one of these highs that price decides that it decided to stop at this area. But again, we're still not out of the woods yet because even with this pattern, I'm using that consolidation pattern that we talked about. Price still has to remain true to this pattern. It can't violate it. But what we could have is that price could try to create support. I could see US 30 still trying to create this area of support to do one of these numbers. We'll see. I actually don't think based off of this consolidation pattern, but I don't want to leave it to chance alone. This is what I think that the market may attempt to do. What I'm looking for is exactly what we've already been discussing. Either this is going to consolidate right here and then continue up, or it's going to consolidate, get a slight push down to test that again, and then push the market back up and then keep riding the wave. until we want to revisit this area or if it wants to revisit this area again. I don't think so because this whole range is like, big ass consolidation. So what I'm thinking is that once we break out of this range, it's like price is going to have no reason to come down to these lower levels. Remember, this is Q2. So in Q2, the market trends more. You know what I'm saying? So we should be looking for aggressive moves that's going to carry us up, even though it looks like, man, this thing could be selling off. I'm not even entertaining the sell. And I've been talking about that, traders. Like, we're not even looking for the sell. Yes, I know the market can sell off, but unless it violates something that we've already been looking at, even over here, this we still had an area that the market possibly could have came back to. We had mentioned this, but we got away from it because we thought that price was respecting the support. Well, now it is respecting the support on this side of on the right side of the market, which we want to be. And like I said, I expect the trend. Either we're going to consolidate or we're going to do like a slight push down and then continue the trend pushing us up because I've already talked about the 945 candle, how much that can be an asset, yo. Now, within the 945 candle, price could still test that zone. You're just using it as a zone. You're not saying that, oh, once price does this, that, I mean, in a sense you are, but you're still using it as information. Okay, price broke out of the, let me scale in so I can see. This is the 945 candle, right? We're on the 15 minute. Yeah. This green candle right here. That's the 945 candle. So I expect 10, anywhere around 10 to test back into this area. Maybe play around where the high is at. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of did that. But we popped up and then we just, started creating these swing lows for the market to actually start rallying up. These are things that I'm looking for in orientation to the 945 candle. I know that since we're going into post market, price could try to pull back down and test within either the high or somewhere within this somewhere within this zone. We don't want to see it break lower than this, you know what I'm saying, and close above. It could actually still like test these areas, like come back to where opening bell is at, but we're not looking for that because we're expecting that the trend is going to continue pushing us up. But I'm just saying, using this now that we're above the 945 candle and it's about to go into post market, we can say that, okay, the market is bullish. We know that we can have one more test or like one or two more tests back into the zone of the 945 candle. If it happens, good. If it doesn't happen, great. You know what I'm saying? This is just giving you an option if price does do that. So this is what I'm looking for whenever I use the 945, whenever I zone up a 945 candle. I'm giving you as an exact explanation of like what I'm personally looking for. You know what I'm saying? So either way in this area, it's like shit. This is still within a reasonable buy zone for me. You know what I'm saying? I know we want to have the precise entry, but this is still a reasonable buy zone for me. Anything lower, then yeah, I'll be scratching my head. But based off of this pattern, I don't think that we'll get like a push down. I think that we'll get a push up. Then, like I said, price may try to do it tomorrow around like opening bell, bring us down to test the high again, and then push us back up. I'm hoping that we don't see that. I'm hoping this is the move that I was looking for price to test based off this pattern and then continue the trend going up. But like I said, either way, I'm still bullish on all indices. Like I'm not changing my narrative. I expect us to break the high for US 30 probably before the end of this month. I'm hoping we get that, but we're closer than we are farther away. So for me, there's no point in thinking that the market is selling off right now, unless it shows me that it's selling off. We do have this gap that price never came back to test, and I was always wondering about that. But since we're playing off of this inverted head and shoulder, it shouldn't want to come back this low because if it does, then price is definitely trying to push down way lower and actually come back down here and create support. But we're in we're in Q2. I'm not looking for that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that if that were to take place, then yes, we're looking at a seller's market now. You know what I'm saying? This is no longer a buyer's market. But we know that we're buying up. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been riding the trend and we've been riding the wave of these patterns. Not to mention each time the market has been breaking higher. And if we are going to get a sell-off, I think that it would have to happen once we get back up to the high that was made, which was 50,500 and some change. But once we break that, then yeah, we can get a move that may try to, wipe out buyers and stuff to push down a little bit hard, maybe even back down to these levels. But all I'm seeing is buys from this point on. You know what I'm saying? Like, should be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just where your entry is at. Hopefully, your entry isn't too far off. Our entries have been a little bit off, but we've been definitely correcting ourselves because again, we still have markups left over where the market has just come down to it and be like, oh man, glad I didn't over leverage. I can jump in another entry, make my money back by hedging. Or, if I have another account, I could just jump in a cleaner entry. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to close a decent sized loss and then jump in at a better entry. Just don't make a habit of it because you're dwindling down your balance. But that's all I got for today, traders. I hope y'all have a successful trading week. It has been a successful trading week so far. Everything that we needed to happen is starting to happen right now. You know what I'm saying? Just don't get caught with your pants down. It's been a successful trading month. Last month, we definitely started off May with wins. So I expect us to keep winning. You know what I'm saying? And by the end of the year, yo, it should be all smiles, right? But I'm Antoine Farrar as always. Like I said, I hope y'all have a successful trading day. I'll see y'all in the next video with Digital Goats Academy. I'm signing off. Peace.